she was looking up. She went, I want to stop there. Stop there, pull over. So we pulled over into the Whataburger stand, and I said, okay, I'll go. She said, I want a Whataburger. And she had just had this procedure and medication. She was supposed to have a little soup, light soup or something. She said, nope, I want a Whataburger and a Coca-Cola. So I said, okay, well, I'll go in and get it for you. She said, no, I want to go in. So I helped out of the car, and she went in, and she ordered her Whataburger and her Coca-Cola with lots of ice, and she was always fighting with them in Germany because they weren't big on ice there. And she had her Whataburger, and we went on our way. But that was always one of the most memorable moments to me. It was just, she made me laugh sometimes during the kind of strangest moments. But there were a lot of moments like that I always remember with her. And it was one of the reasons I wrote the book was not only to just sort of chronicle her journey and her courage and, so it could be hopefully supportive and maybe inspirational for people who read about, what she went through and how she went through it with such courage. But also just to, I think I wanted to be able to remember it myself. I wanted to, and I wanted people that loved her and her fans to be able to have some part of her those last few years, and I keep it. It's in my bedroom. I'm looking at it right now, and every now and then I pick it up and read it because it's done as a diary, and it has all the dates. But that's really what it was. It was my diaries of that time, and I used to read them to her sometimes. And so sometimes I'll just pick it up and I'll say, gosh, what were we doing, this time 4 years ago or whatever, and it just brings it back to me, and it helps me to, I don't know, it sort of helps me stay connected to her, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, it does. It would be like anybody else that keeps a diary of their life and they go back and read it. And it's the same thing for you. And you relive the memories, whether they're good or bad or ugly.
And I was actually going to do my memoir, which is out now, but I was going to do that as my first book, and I was going back through that section of about us in Germany and her battling cancer, and there were so many entries in my journal. I mean, there was so much there, and I thought, wow, I just can't compress this down into a chapter or something. It feels like it ought to be its own book, and so that's kind of how it happened. So that came out a little over 3 years ago, and then I did my memoir, which came out the end of September, Rearview Mirror. And I have a couple of stories in there that have happened since Farrah's passing that were. You'll see when you get to the. I know you haven't finished it yet, but when you get to the end, you'll see there's a story in there that's kind of chilling. I mean, in a good way, though. It's I always feel like I get signs every now and then from her, and I write about one of them at the end of my book.
Oh, that sounds good. As we all look for signs.
That's right. And now, as you were writing that memoir, how difficult was it for you to write that? Because I know that kind of forces you when you do something like that, it forces you to kind of not only look back on your life, or even writing the book about Farrah, but you're kind of reliving so much of that. How was that for you emotionally?
Well, all my life I've kept journals, really. So I would go back and I would read these journals, and it was, I have to say, it was sort of like reliving the moment. It was often kind of difficult. I mean, it would bring up the same feelings. And the thing I wanted to do with my book is I wanted to write not just, this happened and that happened, but I wanted to write about my feelings and how I felt about it and how it affected me and the tools that I learned through my journey in life to use to help get me through. And I think when we share with other people our own particular challenges and we share how we get through them, I know that's helped me over the years when I hear people share. If I go to meetings or something where I hear people share about things that are going on in their lives and what the tools that they're using to help them get through it, it helps me. And I hoped that, maybe that would hope anybody else reading the book that identified with some of the trials and tribulations I've been through, because there have been a few. There have been quite a few.
Right. Now, I know at one point, too, when you were with Farrah, that you were diagnosed with having cancer cells a couple of times. Yes,
I had. I guess over there they actually told me that I had stage 1 cancer, but it was, I think, a language barrier and all that. And when I got back here, and then I did have laser surgery and went to remove all of that, those cells. And then when I got back here, the doctor here said, well, it was actually pre-cancer, but what they did was correct in treating it. So, yes, I did, and it was kind of strange and scary, because it was at the same time when I was in Germany with her.
Right.
It was just very odd that would, ironic that would happen, and so I still have to get, tested every 3 to 4 months and just keep a close eye on it.
Yeah, I mean, because the very first person you want to turn to in your life when you get diagnosed with something like that is your family and your close friends, and not to be able to talk to her about it, that had to be really hard.
Well, it's when it happened, I was with her in Germany, and I had to go into Munich, which was almost an hour away, to have this procedure done, and she had just had maybe like 3 or 4 days before had a procedure done for her cancer, and she insisted on going with me, and I said, no, you can't, you have to stay here. And she insisted. I mean, she was adamant she was going with me, and she did.
Yeah, to I think express how much fear you had yourself, it was almost like you would feel guilty telling her that when you see what she is going through.
Well, yes, because I mean, I sort of a sick joke. I said we started calling it my cancer for a day, because I had it, and then we just was dealt with so quickly.
Right, right.
And then it was, dealt with, and so it wasn't obviously like hers, where it had to go on and on and on with treatment.
Yeah. Either way, it's scary, no matter what.
It's scary, and it's something I try not to think about, because I don't want to think about the fact that I don't know. You never know. You have a test; it could come back, and I had a colonoscopy the other day, which I talk about, because everyone should have them. Anyone starting when you turn 50, you should have them regularly, and if you've had cancer, colon cancer in your family, which I did. My grandmother died of colon cancer. You should even, I believe, in my opinion, start even earlier. One of the big things that we talk about in the foundation, and that I really want to further and bring more public awareness to, is early detection, and it's such a, it's a very preventative measure, is testing, and early detection.
Right. Some of these tests you don't want to go through, but it's something that you have to do if you want to live.
Yes,
get
if you
something
find
diagnosed
it
early.
Yeah, if you find cancer in the early stages, the chances are very good that you will survive it and overcome it.
Right. My mom died of breast cancer at the age of 52. She never went for a mammogram until she found a lump in her breast. And then she went, and I think she had found it on her left breast, and that one was okay, but she didn't find one that was on her right breast that they found when they did the mammogram, and that's the one that was cancerous. So
I don't know what age young women are supposed to start having mammograms. Do you? But I know
you're supposed to have a base one at 35, I believe, if cancer does not run in your family, and then at 40 you're supposed to start going every couple of years. I started going at the age of 30 when my mother was diagnosed, because it runs in my family now.
Yes.
And so I have to go every single year. So the earlier the better.
Yeah, and it's very smart that you're doing that, because if, God forbid, anything should happen, you would catch it very early, and the chances are very, very good. I have a couple of friends that detected breast cancer early, and they're just fine and have been fine for many years.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm so terrified to wait for my results when I go for the mammogram, but yet I know that if I didn't go for it, I'd be worried.
Yeah, at least it clears your mind, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think anytime you get a test, at this point in my life, anytime I get any, you know, the test that you do, whether it was a colonoscopy or a mammogram or whatever, I mean, you always kind of hold your breath a little bit, you know,
Right.
until you get the results. It's just, I mean, it's normal.
Yeah, and I think you know, it is kind of a normal reaction, but I think being proactive and getting on top of it just as quickly as possible is always the key. And you know, talking about Farrah being so courageous with her battle with cancer, what was the way that she just really inspired you in watching her go through that?
Well, I as we've talked about, just the fact that she was so courageous and that she did keep her sense of humor, and she was always very kind and thoughtful of people around her, no matter what she was going through. And I found her courage very inspirational. I always said to her, you know, I don't think I could do what you're doing. And she would always say, oh, yes, you could. And I go, no, I don't think so.
I thought the same thing when I read the book. You know, each time she went for another procedure, I thought, oh, my gosh, how does she keep doing this? And the pain of going through some of these procedures. And then to leave there and, like you said, go have a hamburger or go and, you know, sit in some restaurant and eat something and laugh. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I'd be curled up in a ball on the bed crying, you know, help me.
You know, you might not, though. You might surprise yourself, because the one thing she wanted, you gained such an appreciation for life, either going through it yourself or watching someone so close to you go through it. You really gain an appreciation for life, and every day you're alive, you're grateful for it. You know, if there was a day where she felt great and we went out walking in the sunshine and the German countryside, she was so happy to be out and looking at the horses and, you know, just the beautiful green countryside, and you become very grateful for the little things, and it's something I learned through that, and I write about it in the last chapter of my journey with Farrah, and I write about it in the last chapter of Rearview Mirror too. Is one of the things that I've just learned in life is you have to have gratitude for every day that you're alive, and you have to appreciate life, and you have to appreciate the people you love, and really show them that you love them and that you care about them. And because life can, as I said, life can change in a heartbeat, you know, and we all really need to be present every day and be grateful for every day that we have, that we're alive and healthy. And I try to make it a point to do that. I don't always do it. You know, we all have our bad days where everything's going wrong, and God knows I do, and I have to kind of stop and center myself and say, okay, wait a minute. Now you have a lot to be grateful for. Let's start thinking about the glass half full instead of half empty.
Right. Now, one question I had is, because I didn't remember reading it in there, and I was trying to think back as I was getting towards the end of the book. How was Farrah originally diagnosed with the anal cancer? I mean, was she having problems that she thought she should
have? Yes, she was having problems, and she didn't go to get them checked right away. She let it go on for much longer than she should have. And then she went and she had a test, and they found the cancer. But she should have gone in much earlier at the first sign. But she didn't. She was in Texas taking care of her mother, who was very ill and, in fact, was dying, and she was undergoing a lot of stress herself, you know.
Yeah.
And being kind of a full-time caretaker, and she just put her own needs on hold, and then I think that's one of the reasons her cancer was so difficult to cure, and with it, she didn't have that luxury of having the early detection. She let it go.
And I think we tend to do that, like as a mother, you would know. We take care of everybody else's needs before our own.
Well, that's true. We all do that, I think, when we're a mother and when we're mothers, and we tend to just think, oh, well, I'll get around to that.